how to send an email. So you'll notice we can hit compose right here. Then you'll notice there's a couple of fields. I'm going to go ahead and just expand this to full screen so you can see it better. And right now you can see this is the to. So we can go ahead and add their email address. So let's just put derek.su1@gmail.com. And you'll notice you can add more emails. We can add info@company123.com, right? You can send it to multiple people. You'll notice the next two buttons, CC and BCC. If you put CC, we can add someone else. Let's say derek.su2@gmail.com, right? Right now, what this email is going to do is going to send it to derek.su1 as well as info@company123.com. And it's going to CC derek.su2@gmail.com. So derek.su2@gmail.com is also going to get this email, but he is CC'd. He's not the primary sent, but he is looped in on the email conversation. That's what that is. And because he's looped in, he can see where this email was sent to. So he can see that it's primarily sent to derek.su1 as well as info company, but he was just looped in. So that's kind of what CC means. He can also jump into the email. The next thing is BCC. So BCC is the exact same thing as CC, except they cannot see the to or other people that have been CC'd. Keep that in mind. This is important information. I typically never use BCC, and obviously do your own research, but I typically CC someone who is involved. For example, a CEO who is hiring you for a website. You guys will exchange emails back and forth. He may then go ahead and add one of his team members, like let's just say his marketing team, into the email. That's when he will add them as a CC, and that's when he'll get context of the previous email conversations, and you can now go ahead and talk to the marketing person. So again, to and CC are very important. BCC just hides all the email addresses. And then we have subject. So this is important. This appears as a subject line in the email view. So in this case, this may be like project name, deposit invoice, for example. And then you can go ahead and type your message. Now, there is a very important thing to distinguish. With emails, we want to be very professional, very concise, and this is not instant text messaging with your friends, okay? You should ideally keep everything professional. So for example, you wouldn't say like, hey, how's it going, brah? Please see invoice. You know what I mean? And you'll notice if I type in invoice, sometimes emails automatically pick up what you're gonna say next. In this case, it's suggesting attached. So I can actually just hit my arrow key and use that word. Obviously, there's some key mistakes here. Firstly, there's a lot of spelling errors, which suggest unprofessionalism. Secondarily, what the heck is hey with like 5 Ys? This is not professional. I don't need to tell you this, right? Like this is more like informal. This is more like text messaging with friends, not like a business deal. So you definitely don't want to say stuff like, how's it going, brah? That's not professional. I typically, as a suggestion, would just start off with hi. I wouldn't even use hey. I'll just say hi, and then you put their name. Let's say you're talking to someone called Bennett. Hi, Bennett. Then I'll put a comma. This is the detail we need to pick up. Then I'll go ahead and hit enter, and then I'll type my message like, great talking to you on the phone today at 2 p.m. We discussed many things such as, X, then we talked about Y, then we talked about a Z, and then you go into great details. Then you might say something like, please see invoice attached for me to get started. And then you'll notice in emails, we can attach a file by hitting this button right here, attach files. This will open up our computer and we can go ahead and attach a PDF file of the invoice, for example. In this case, I'm just gonna go ahead and attach a screenshot like so, and then that will show up as an attachment. So you'll notice other things in email is we can highlight text, we can bold text, we can italicize text, we can apply underline, we can change the text color, which is very, situational. And we can also change the font, which is just absurd. Like I recommend just keeping it the same. We don't need to overthink these things, but there are options. You notice even in emails, you can change the font size. By default, I keep it to be normal, but I'm just showing you there's options. And we can go ahead and put dot points. We can align our text differently from left aligned to right aligned. We can put strike through and etc. But other important things that I use often is you can actually highlight specific text and you can go ahead and hit this link button right here. And that makes that text a hyperlink. Like let's say www.google.com, hit apply. Or if you have a PayPal invoice, you can say, here's the PayPal invoice, then hyperlink the text invoice with the PayPal link. A lot of stuff we can do. We can also add images by just dragging in an image on our computer. Let's say, for example, this one. And sometimes if the image is too big, in this case it's 12.5 megs, it will leave it as an attachment. So let me go ahead and just find a small image. This is 129 KB. You can see we can attach it right here. So we can add some screenshots. Personally, I like to record like a custom video. So I might send that custom video link as well for them to see. But there are clear things we want to do in emails. Firstly, we don't want to keep the text super long. We don't want the user to read like a whole story or a whole mega paragraph. If it's a very long email that's very technical and like, do XYZ, you must turn this knob 65 degrees, then do this, then do this. I suggest just scheduling a call so you can explain all this, or better yet, record a video of yourself explaining what is needed. So keep emails very short and very concise. If it's too long to read, I suggest either recording a video and sending that as a link or scheduling a meeting. This is very, very common stuff. An email should be very, very high level. So right now you can see I said, great talking to you on the phone today, 2 p.m. We discussed many things such as XYZ. In this case, we could have just said we discussed, or we could have just said as discussed, and then just hit enter, and we don't need to say the word things such as XYZ. We can just go ahead and maybe put some dot points right here. We discuss X, we discuss Y, we discuss Z, and then we'll say, please see invoice attached for me to get started. And then you always want to end your email with regards. And there's different terminologies you can end it with. For example, kind regards or best. But typically regard is the safest one with your email signature. That's very standard. For example, you might use best instead of regards if you're like saying like best wishes. Like, for example, if you're not a good fit for the client and you just give them some suggestions like, hey, I read your brief. I'm not a good fit at this time. Sorry, I'm fully booked. I can't take any projects, but I wish you the best in finding someone else. Then you end it in best or kindest regards. Also in email, you want to pay attention to spacing. So right now, you want to make it easy for the eye to read the specific email. Okay, so I have an example text. This says, hi John, just wanted to send a quick update on the website project. The homepage redesign is nearly complete and should be ready for review by Friday. This is great communication skills, right? We also started wireframing the about page yesterday. Development on the contact form will begin next week. Let me know if you have any feedback. This is a great email in a nutshell. Obviously, you could have just summarized this in a video call, but one point that I want to raise is the spacing. You'll notice this is pretty hard to read on the eye. This is crazy, right? We actually want to space things. For example, if I just hit enter and if I go ahead and just remove some of the spacing like this and like this is a lot easier to read on the eye. It's showing different spacing. Whereas before, it was really squished, the specific text, which made it hard to read. That's something to consider, spacing your sentences and making sure it's very concise. And obviously, this goes in design, but you want to space your sentences so everything in that specific sentence makes sense and is similar topic. Then the next spacing, it'll talk about something else. So for example, it's saying, hi John. That's one thing, one context. Then we're putting a space that says, just wanted to send you a quick update on the website project. And then we're going to explain it in the next sentence, which we put another spacing. The homepage design is this. We also started this, and development right here should also be another line. Perhaps we want to put these in bullet points, like so. This looks a lot easier to read on the eye. So it matters at the end of the day how you write your emails, how concise it is, and how you space it. This all matters. And I'm not going to go into like a 6-hour course, but there are levels and etiquettes to it that you want to keep professional. Okay, so now let me teach you how to reply and forward emails. So for example, if someone sent you an email, let's say this one right here, this is an automatic email when we did that calendar invite, but same premise. You can see this is the email content. Again, it's pretty unique because it's a calendar forward. But here you'll notice there's two buttons. One is if we hit reply, the other one is forward. So if we hit reply, this is directly replying to the to email address. Keep that in mind. It's not actually going to go ahead and reply to everyone who is CC'd. So for example, in this email that I just sent myself, deposit invoice, you can see this is the address that was being sent from. If I hit this drop down, it's being sent from dereksu.com.au@gmail.com. That's where I was just at when I showed you guys. Then it's sending to my email address, which is derek.su1@gmail.com. That's why I'm seeing this. And it's also sent to info@company123.com. So they'll also get that email. And then below this, you can see it says CC. So derek.su2@gmail.com is also going to see this email. You'll notice if I was to reply to this email, it gives me 3 different options. We can either hit reply, reply all, or forward. This is very important, and often not, there's beginner mistakes specifically in understanding what reply all is. So if we just hit reply, you'll notice this only replies to the sender, dereksu.com.au@gmail.com, right? I'm gonna go hit delete. If I hit reply all, that's gonna automatically populate the 2, and it's gonna automatically CC the rest of the email addresses so they can also keep in touch and understand where this email is at. This is a very common mistake. When someone sends you an email, pay attention if they CC'd anyone and whether they're important or not. If they're important and they should be looped into the communication, in the email communication, you want to keep them in the CC and you want to hit reply all. In the case where they're not actually important, you can actually go ahead and remove them by just hitting this X button. And you'll notice with CC, we can swap the email by just dragging it to 2 and then drag the bottom one to CC. So an example of this is maybe you're talking to the director of the company to close the deal. You send him the invoice, he pays it, then he says, hey, I'm going to CC my team member. And then he CCs the team member. Then you'll say, hi everyone, thanks so much for CCing me, the team member. Then you might not want to send that to the director anymore. You want to send that to the person that was CC'd, and then you put the director to CC himself or herself. That way he's still aware. Just understand, CC is important because these people can see what the email chain is about. If you don't do that, they get cut off in communication. Very common mistake. And finally, the last one is forward. So you can actually forward this email and any other email chain by just hitting this button. And you'll notice it says forward message. You see all the email below that is every single email, including the chain, the full email chain. And you can go ahead and send it to recipients right here. And that's that. So those are the 3 main ways of sending email. Hey guys, it's Derek. I hope you enjoyed that video on how to send emails in Google, but obviously it applies to any other email software such as Apple or even Microsoft. If you enjoyed this video, this was actually a part of my segment in my freelance/business course where I talk even more in detail about, for example, how to add email signatures, how to understand common lingos in emails such as COB, which is close of business, as well as how to set out of office replies and how to organize your emails. And on top of that, the course even goes even more in detail. It's not really specifically about email, but more of like the fundamentals of business, which I cover 5 different modules: marketing, business development, sales and legal, accounting and finance, and so forth. So if you're interested in that course, check it out in the description. Otherwise, I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.